Lots of other royal stories to talk about as well. Who better to do so with than the great royal commentator Kinsey Schofield over there on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Hi, Kins.
Hi, Kev. You're right. A ton going on right now in the royal world. But I mean, while we've spoken about Harry and Meghan and Donald Trump and that relationship, I do think that there have been some new developments in the sense that we saw Prince Harry, or it was at the end of last week, both Prince Harry and Meghan Markle appear in that video for the Global Ministerial Conference on Violence Against Children in Colombia, promoting online safety for children. And while you and I will both agree that online safety for children is very important, Prince Harry has also said that the First Amendment is bonkers. And if he's going to pursue changing laws or trying to be an authority on how we change the rules when it comes to communicating on social media, that is where I think he could run into some trouble with the Trump administration. He needs to keep his head down. You know, this is a great cause. Maybe you're not the right person to champion it.
Yeah, well, in a second, we'll play the video that Harry and Meghan made promoting this cause. And it was the first time they've been seen together for a long time. And Harry has turned up yet again on his own at another award ceremony. Tell us what that's all about, Kinsey.
Yeah, and this is a People magazine exclusive. Can you believe it? Does that surprise you?
Well, hang on a second. People magazine, they don't usually get stories about Harry and Meghan. They got a hotline to Harry and Meghan, haven't they?
Exactly. The carrier pigeon, like, just it lives across the street. The carrier pigeon, they share it basically. So he's continuing his relationship with the Pat Tillman Foundation, according to People magazine. He made an unannounced appearance at the organization's 20th anniversary Tillman's Honors Gala that happened in Chicago, Illinois. According to some of the witnesses there, Harry attended the entire gala. He sat next to Pat Tillman's widow. And then before the gala, he attended a leadership development session with the Pat Tillman Foundation CEO and retired NFL quarterback Jake Plummer. There were 40 Tillman scholars there that were floored when he walked in the room. They had no idea he was going to be there. So I think there's two stories here. You know, of 84,120 people signed a petition for Prince Harry not to receive that Pat Tillman Award. I think he's trying to prove his value by continuing that relationship with the Tillman Foundation, which is honorable. But another event where Meghan Markle is MIA, Kevin.
Exactly right. Let's have a look at that video. This is what they've recorded, as you say, about their cause célèbre, their pet cause.
Good morning, and thank you to both the Colombian and Swedish governments, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Ending Violence Against Children for bringing us all together today. The first ever ministerial conference on ending violence against children comes at a crucial time and, quite frankly, should not be required. But here we are. We are at a crossroads where the urgency to reassess and redefine our approach to protecting children has become increasingly evident. While the necessity has always been apparent, it is now time to translate that awareness into meaningful action. So we thank you all for your attention to this critical issue.
My husband and I recognize today's reality is marked by greater connectivity and advanced technology, which of course has many positives, but which also compels us to better understand how digital violence against children is manifesting itself.
Does anyone know what the hell she's talking about? Can you translate, Kinsey? Greater connectivity? I mean, she speaks in a language that most of us can't understand. You're on the West Coast. Perhaps you could translate that West Coast psycho-babble for us.
You mean like how she always says fundamentally? Like she always says fundamentally. Like they definitely have some.
It's the longest word she knows.
They definitely have some key talking points that they learned at some sort of I don't know.
You're right. Psycho-babble conference, yeah.
Yeah,
it's gobbledygook. She speaks gobbledygook. She really does. She really does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think with Harry, what did he say right there? Translate that awareness into meaningful action. Meaningful action is kind of one of those generic phrases that they utilize too. Here's what I'd say, and I'd love your opinion on this. Watching that video, didn't it feel like, and it's not just because he spoke first, but didn't it feel like Meghan was reluctantly accepting the role as second fiddle? And she was allowing him the spotlight. And I'm wondering if that is the publicist saying they don't like the fact that you wear the pants in the family. You've got to change the dynamic. It's the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Yeah, exactly right, Kinsey. I think that's a very good observation. I think that's what's going on there. And she is reduced to borrowing Her Majesty the Queen, the late Queen's famous phrase. All of her speeches began with, "My husband and I." I mean, it was like a national joke here in Britain. It was her favourite phrase. Now Meghan's been reduced to borrowing it. But as you say, that does, reduce her to the role of the little wife, really, taking second position. And you're right. The only way that can have happened is if the image makers said, that is the way people will prefer it. If you don't do what we say, Meghan, you will become even more unpopular. So maybe, just maybe, late in life, she's starting to listen to what people tell her to do for her own sake, because her popularity is in the toilet.
I was just watching a marketing video from a woman who has blown up in the beauty industry, and she was saying there is a difference between wealthy people and celebrity, and it's not just money. It's the fact that celebrities have a team of people that tell them, you know what, you look better this way. You need to wear your hair long. You need to be blonde. And whereas wealthy people, they don't have the team. They just have yes people around them, and they do whatever they want. And they sometimes fail because they don't have the right guidance, and they don't have the right people around them that are leading them from a business perspective, and not from that for that person's ego, so that they can stay on the payroll or in their good graces. And I'd say, looking at Harry and Meghan, you see that. You see wealth versus somebody that is a real strong brand. I mean, throw royalty out the window completely. I think you do. Are they wealthy or are they celebrities? And I even think that they fall short of celebrity because they are surrounded by yes people, and they've done things their way over the last 4 years. That video to me was so wildly bizarre that I do think it is a sign that there are new people on board, and that Harry and Meghan are potentially reluctantly following some direction.
Yeah, and you can't interpret too much by just what you see. But was it just me, Kinsey? Tell me what you think. But looking at those two, they feel kind of like stiff, formal, uncomfortable.
It's not just you. Page 6, that was in the Page 6 headline. So America.
Oh, was it? I mean, I haven't seen that, so I just said that organically. So
yeah. So it's American media that's also saying, "Wow, you guys look stiff." It's not just you. So how interesting that was your observation. It's the first time we're seeing these two together in 2 months. And keep in mind, Kev, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of Harry and Meghan shooting things at home, whether it be a Netflix docuseries / reality show. But remember, we've seen them on these Zoom calls where Meghan will be having a serious discussion, and then Harry will pop his head in, and it gets silly, and everybody giggles. We've seen so much. Meghan will be in a sleeveless tank top and just California cool. This was completely different. Are they trying, because they're talking to this Colombia audience, are they trying to project that royalty that the Colombian government allowed them to pretend to be during that trip? Because we certainly didn't see the footloose and fancy-free couple that we've seen digitally over the last few years, on whether they are talking at a digital conference where they just look so relaxed and cool and fun, or each of them popping their heads in and interrupting the other's conversation. It just felt very scripted, very structured, and to your point, very stiff.
Now, let's. I agree. But as I say, hand on heart, I hadn't seen page 6 in the New York Post. Very remiss of me. All journalists should look at page 6.
You're just that good.
No, it is remiss of me. All journalists should look at page 6 every day, and I didn't. So I am telling you that my observation, that was completely organic. So interesting, and I think there's something in it. Well, let's talk also now about. Prince Harry's continued residence in the United States. The Heritage Foundation, we discussed this last week, Kinsey, are continuing their efforts to allow the public, if you like, to see Harry's visa application. Did he admit the truth that he's an illegal drug user? If so, why was he allowed to reside in America? Because I wouldn't be allowed to. No, ordinary Brits wouldn't be allowed to. What the hell is the egalitarian United States of America doing, granting special treatment to a British aristocrat? That doesn't seem right. Or did he lie? Did he not admit to his drug use? And that's to lie on your visa application to the United States is a federal offence. And the lawyer for the Heritage Foundation, a guy called Mike Howell, he's the director of the Oversight Project, which is the Heritage Foundation's investigative arm. Having concluded their investigation, Mike Howell says Markle can stay. He needs to go. I mean, Donald Trump has said they won't get the same protection under me that they did under Biden. Donald Trump is angry, continues to be angry about the way he thinks that the gruesome twosome treated the late great Queen. Donald, you know, I mean, he may move in, and there is talk now. We learnt this story. What was it? 2 weeks ago now, wasn't it? Or was it beginning of last week? I think it might have been this time last week that they bought this big mansion in Portugal in a gated community. And that there is now talk that they bought that with a view to moving there permanently because they fear Donald might kick Harry out of the States. Whether or not that's true, it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting theory, but if you and I were not 100% sure or even 50% sure that Donald Trump was going to take the White House, I mean, you were much more convinced than I was that I highly doubt Harry and Meghan, who 2 + 2 = 6 to these two. Mm-hmm. I highly doubt that these two saw that coming or are in a position to predict that. Those are some very strong words. Meghan can stay. Harry's got to go. Now, I know I've said this to you before, but we do need to continue to consider the fact that if Prince Harry was given any special privilege, it was under the Trump administration in 2016. So we do have to acknowledge that. Are they going to... I highly doubt that the Trump administration would have done him any favors in 2016. So the likelihood to me is that perhaps he was not as necessarily honest as he was in the book Spare, as he was in this application. That is definitely could be one of the issues. But also keep in mind when Liam Payne was trying to get back into the country, I mean, this is like, this story is so heavy on my heart. The fact that he got stuck in Argentina, this is according to The Sun, stuck in Argentina over visa issues, trying to get back into the States. They made him take some mental health tests in Argentina, and they made him take some drug tests in Argentina. And he passed those at the time and was days away from getting that stamp to get back into the United States. So perhaps he did admit it. They required him to take some tests, Prince Harry, and perhaps he passed. We don't know the circumstances, but you're right. Why not just be honest with us about them and make this entire story go away? You're just feeding the beast by not just being like, hey, you know what? Here's how I'm here. Why do you guys care so much? Leave me alone, you know? Yeah,
well, I just think Donald Trump will make it awkward for them. And you're quite right, Kinsey. Behind the gilded gates of Montecito Towers, those two, Meghan and Harry, locked in their little liberal Hollywood-type bubble. Oh, yeah, Kamala can't lose. She's the wonderful one. And Donald Trump's a right-wing racist, so he can't can't win. They will have convinced themselves that Kamala would win. And now there's a cold wind blowing through Santa Barbara, I'll tell you.
Kevin, I'm 100% convinced that if Meghan thought for 1 second that Kamala wasn't going to pull this thing through, she would have been up on that stage shaking her tail feather with Beyonce and Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just before you go, though, let's talk about another arm of the royal family over here in Britain. Well, you and I, again, this time last week, I think we talked about this, that Prince Andrew, wicked Prince Andrew, the member of the royal family that makes Harry look great, the two difficult dukes, Harry and Andrew. Andrew, you know, as we've discussed, was about to be kicked out of the Royal Lodge, where he's lived for quite a few years, because the King says, you know, you've got this commitment to maintain the Royal Lodge. It's got 30 rooms, too big for him. And they say that he needed about £3 million. £3 million, so I don't know, $4 million or whatever that is, to put into the kitty to prove that he could pay for the maintenance. The King, basically, as far as we understand, saying to friends, he won't be able to afford this, so I can kick him out. Suddenly he's come up with the money. He said, I've got the money. And apparently it's true, he's got the money, and now there are demands that he reveals who gave it to him. Because, you know, Prince Andrew, that could be anyone. I mean, you have to be careful here. So I wonder where he got the money.
I mean, he borrowed money from Jeffrey Epstein at one point. Fergie said it was one of the biggest mistakes of her life.
And there are plenty of big mistakes for Fergie to choose from. Exactly.
We won't even go into the toe sucking. Yeah. Hey, can I tell you sadly how this is being covered here in the States? Mm-hmm. One of the headlines from the Daily Beast, elderly and sick king revealed as powerless. Elderly and sick king revealed as powerless. Yeah. And they're basically saying that Prince Andrew's making a fool of King Charles, because Prince Andrew should have just done what he was told, but he's pushing back and he's making King Charles look weak and powerless. It's not necessarily about the fact that Prince Andrew has somehow found the financing. It's the fact that he would have the audacity to say no to a king. And his argument, according to the Daily Beast, is that the king has no legal standing. There's a contract that favors Prince Andrew, especially if he has this money in the bank. But unfortunate, I would have never interpreted it this way. But if this is in print, other people now are going to accept this as truth. And that's very unfortunate, you know, in my opinion.
Well, I agree with that, because I don't think it's an accurate picture of what's going on. He's got a contract to rent this place. It's like £250 a week, $350 a week, which is ridiculous for such a massive place. But under that contract, he has an obligation to maintain the property, and the property, because he hasn't had any money, has fallen into a dilapidated state, and that's how the king thought he could get him out. However, suddenly he's turned around and I've found the millions I needed. Now, while the American media might report that the king is elderly, sick and powerless, let me tell you, the king will now demand that Andrew reveals where this money came from, because it might be an issue of national security. This guy in the past has had very dodgy connections with people in some of the Eastern European states. So let me tell you, the king isn't finished yet, but fascinating development, and we await what happens in that situation with bated breath. Kinsey, brilliant to talk to you as always. Thank you so much.